Hello. Welcome to Outlaw Redemption the Podcast, a Western folk rock opera. This is Chapter 1 and Sunrise on the Farm.
All right.
So I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. My co-host, the one and only Ronald Allen Cordy, better known as RPG. So this was the start of it all.
Yes.
And we started recording the song first.
Yeah, we started with the song. I mean, I already had the concept together of the introductions, the narrations, of course.
Yeah. So you had all that written out.
I had
all, through the whole record,
actually
pretty
had.
much.
I did not have them written out. I knew they were there. I knew what needed to go there. I just needed to lay them out because I knew what he was going to introduce and how the idea of the narrations, the chapters. Like I said, but to lay the story out piece by piece and advance the story when necessary, fill in some of the missing blanks so that because here's the crazy thing. I thought about this stuff all the time. I have backstories for characters that are not even in this thing in case it ever becomes, because like I said, the idea was to make a movie. But that's what we wanted to do with this first piece, is set off where we begin. It's the beginning, right?
Right.
Yeah. So in our story, we start off with the dream, the idea. This is the goal. Like we are at the goal of life. Here's this guy on this beautiful farm. He's got his family and his kids, and everything's going great. And man, he's so blessed and he's so grateful. And it's just wonderful. And that's the whole idea, because this is like the dream, and they're living this dream. You know, they got this, but the cool thing, okay, so that was the first song, really, the first scene of the song. But to set it up, it was like, the entire, we started off with chapter 1, included a little overview of the entire thing, the entire story, as well as what was happening in the first song. And, it's basically about the question. It posed a question. The very first line, have you ever wondered if there's a way back when folks get a little too far off the path? And
It's a great way to start a story.
yeah, I mean, I pose a question.
Yeah.
And then obviously, see, we lay out this guy was on the path and living the dream. And then how
This is Obadiah Harbin.
Obadiah Hardman. Yep. I often referred to in the story as Obi.
Yeah. So is Obi based on anyone?
No, I think he was a generic character. I mean, there are so many of these stories I watched, you could probably draw lots of parallels to him. Man, we were raised on this stuff. That's kind of the other thing about it. I mean, that's the point of watching all these shows with my dad. How many of those characters are the same character?
Right.
And I think I watched it, and really what it was, they were just men. Some of them were strong men, some of them were weak men, but they were men put under circumstances in these stories. Always there's a person, regardless of where they're put under circumstances that are not normal, and then things change.
Which is the premise of every great story. Yeah. Whether it be the story of Jesus in the Bible or of Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. It's just men, just normal men.
Just normal men
put in circumstances.
In the world, man. It has its ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we only see so much of it. It's like running in the forest, telling me you think you know what this forest looks like, and you see the trees around you. And you're like, yeah, there's trees around you, but if you were in a helicopter and you saw like 4 million acres with mountains and lakes and streams, that's a whole lot different view than you got done running around, in the middle of it, stumbling through the brush and banging off of a tree.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's the way the Lord sees the forest, 4 million acres and all of that stuff. And he knows what's going on in all of it. And we're running around going, I don't see what you're talking about. And we're banging off of trees, not realizing that we are in that thing, and it's just, it's just real hard sometimes because, man, I don't know what the answer is. But I do trust that there's somebody that does, because some things are so beautiful and put together, it just amazes me. I studied physics in college, and a lot of people say, well, science here's the thing about it is, the more that I learned about science, which is actually science is observation. People don't realize that. And the more you observe, maybe the more you learn. And sometimes the science changes because you learn more, because you observe more. And, so what that really means, think about it. All we do when something's discovered in science is figure out what this grand engineer did in the creation of these things. Because I promise you, the more that you see it's like it's too perfect to be a coincidence. There's definitely order, structure. There are things that happen that just blow your mind. And the more that I learn, the more it's like there has to be, because this doesn't happen randomly, So that's that was one of the bases of my faith, is my fact that I did pursue science. I was amazed at the things I found, and I couldn't believe they went together, and how just crazy things. But somebody already knew those answers. We're just finding them out. We didn't invent anything. We discover.
We just discover it.
We discover it.
Absolutely. So give us a little bit of background then on where we're at in chapter 1.
So in the story, it starts off, like I said, it's 1861, like it says. It's right before the Civil War, and we got a family living on this farm. This land was given to him by his grandfather, lots of acreage, all those good things, and nice next to a river, real good, fertile, lots of bottom land. If you know anything about farming, the fact that there's a river there tells you there's bottom land, which was well sought after, because that's where all the best soil settles, and the richest farms are usually in bottom land. So, I mean, this guy's really blessed. There's game in the woods, and he's got the beautiful family. He's just living the dream. And then, of course, thankful to God, waking up, sunshine. I mean, it's the morning. The story starts off at dawn on a farm.
Right.
Sunlight breaking through the trees, with a guy realizing just how lucky he is to have all these wonderful things. And then the world hits. In 1861, we had the Civil War began. And of course, being a man of duty, our hero, Obie, good man, high upstanding fellow in the community, takes off and goes off to war. So, and in those hard times, he's off at war and goes and ends up getting captured. And everybody thinks he's dead. He was, did valiant deeds for his side and his people and his troops, and eventually ended up captured, thought he was dead.
But we'll find that out a little later.
Yeah, a little bit. But then he comes home and finds out that's when the challenge begins, because his life was messed up, and then everything he had. And that's what we're going to find out in this story about, the things that the world happened.
Right.
And
so just to stick with chapter 1.
Yes.
So this is just the setup, and basically here's this guy, and here's how he's living, and everything's wonderful.
Everything's wonderful. The dream.
So again, we recorded the song first.
Yep.
And then you had come in and started narrations well into the project.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a good grasp of what was happening.
Yeah, you just thought we had a happy sunshine song.
Yeah, we were months in before I had any clue what was actually going on.
We did a lot of things. You had to get all the drums. So we had to get all the drums in there.
Yeah.
We had to first we had to do scratch tracks for the songs, and all the drums and the orchestrations, to basically set everything up. And then the day that I went in, I remember it was the day we got to a place where we had all the structures for the other songs built up. And
we didn't have anybody scheduled.
And we didn't have anybody scheduled. And I said, well, I can bring over my classical, and we can lay down, because I already know the music. And I said, I'll write the parts.
A little fun fact. The chapters all have music behind them.
Yes, let's talk about that.
That comes off of a Victrola.
Yeah.
You'll hear the needle drop on the Victrola, and the noisy. Is it
static.
vinyl?
Yeah, I think they were some kind
they
of.
Were like
there was
wax,
some kind of.
Right.
Perhaps I think there was some kind of wax. I don't know, cellulite maybe.
But anyway, so you hear the needle drop on the Victrola, and then the song playing in the background, which is just a musical. as you say the narrations over.
Yeah,
over.
we slowed so that's the thing about all the chapter narrations. We did them all with period instruments. The cool thing, let's go to the cover. The cover is pretty neat. It looks like a dime store novel. And we'll get into that a little bit because my friend painted that, and she's on many of these songs too. But but if you look at the information on the page, it says
she's on this song actually.
Yeah, actually
she's sings some background vocals.
Yeah, she does some backgrounds on this. She plays some flute for me on some things too, and but she's an incredible artist in her own right, and she. So if you look on our label, so she painted a picture actually, and then we put on that label. We took a print of it and turned it into what looked like an old dime store or drugstore novella, whatever you might call those. Back in the day they had, and if you look on the cover of it, it's got a couple of interesting things. First of all, it's got my birthday on it, September 29. And second thing, it says 1906. So the reference to that being is that when this gramophone or Victrola goes off, that you hear it kick down, everything we're playing were instruments that were available at that period in time. So we're kind of semi-artificially making period music.
Right.
That are playing behind this narrator telling the story.
Playing on a Victrola back in the corner.
So we emulated that. Bill did an excellent job, I think. We made it, we did it mono. And here's the idea. So between these narrations and then the actual chapters, I had another idea from things I'd seen in my past. I remember how striking it was watching Wizard of Oz, going from the black and white scenes to the color.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were in Oz, and it was like, whoa! I remember being a little kid thinking that was the most magical thing. So the idea here was to start a story and have it kind of in black and white, and then go to the scenes which are in living color, but sonically speaking. So we did this emulated old music mono. And then we turned around and recorded everything in high fidelity, stereo, wide open.
In mono, on a Victrola.
On a Victrola.
Which is...
like it come from a big old horn speaker and stuff. Yeah,
right,
it was neat,
right.
But we wanted it to be that way, and it's got its own appeal.
Yeah, right. So on that, in chapter 1 is you playing...
I'm playing a classical guitar.
Right.
And Sarah Gorick
is playing violin.
Just violin. Just a real simple. It's kind of haunting. It's a nice little piece. I mean, because we slowed. So what we tried to do is take the actual scene that we were playing, the song, if you will, scene song, and we would slow them down for the narrations and play them with this period stuff. So give them a real soulful.
So it's completely different instrumentation.
Yeah, completely.
It's completely different. Tempo.
It's neat because you take two different
and there was
takes.
a couple songs we even changed the time signature.
Yeah.
So
they're basically the same song, but we just changed it up just a little bit, tried to make it fit and feel that you actually felt this transition. I mean, my goal, my hope and attempt was to actually make it as striking as it was when we watched The Wizard of Oz, because that really was moving for me. That yellow brick road was so yellow. And those munchkins were so,
especially after 20 minutes of watching black and white.
I mean, I was a little fella, and I remember it just being incredible.
Yeah, it still does that to me today.
Yeah,
it really does.
I did my very best to attempt that and pay tribute to it. Anything I promise you, if anything sounds like something else or reminds you of something else, it is honestly to tell you tribute, because all these things are part of what I'm made up of. I mean, I'm made of watching The Wizard of Oz. I'm made of watching Gunsmoke. I didn't just now when Dad, I remember watching as a kid on the floor with Dad up in the chair.
Yeah,
this was part of my life. The rifle, Chuck Connors, man, he's a bad dude.
He is.
I mean, he don't scare me so much. As soon as he picks that rifle up, you better run, because he's going to shoot you all if he has to.
Everyone.
He is.
So that's the chapter, and then we go into the song, and it starts out with so we did several takes. Again, we do several takes of everything, because if you don't have it, you can't. You don't have it. So we did several takes of guitars. When we went to mix this down, I was searching around and looking for what guitar part to use.
Are you talking acoustics or electrics?
Yeah, the acoustics.
The acoustic guitars.
And I was looking around for which parts to use. Basically, I would take the best take, and then maybe pull some stuff in and out from other takes, depending. What I ended up doing with this song is there were two takes that were really good.
Well, they were two different
styles. And they
styles.
were very differently done. You had strummed one,
yes,
and then you had finger picked
one.
Yeah,
I think actually we talked intentionally about trying that.
Yeah, we wanted to try it both ways.
Yeah.
And then, so I was looking through and ended up, I pulled both of them up and just panned them all the way out,
Left and
opposite
right,
sides
yeah.
of each other, left and right. And they just work fantastic
really cool.
together. They're two different takes that was never intended that way.
Yeah.
But
so it's like
it sounded so good we had to go with that.
It's really cool because I got to be on the guitar. I got to play guitar twice on it. Yeah, it was neat because going left and right, and it give it a real it give it a balance that was unbalanced, which made it feel natural. Because nothing in life really seems completely balanced.
And there's a very much wave back and forth.
And it kind of flows and develops. And then Mason was hitting on those the djembe, and then working over the washboard, and that was really cool. So we did that, and then Jake,
then when everything comes in, Jake comes in with that slide from that lap steel. That's just.
We had a lot of people. So on this project, myself, I played the two guitars. I did the main vocals, and then I did background vocals. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a second. But Jake played lap steel. Kendall Shelton, Jake Dyer played lap steel. Kendall Shelton, she played the bass guitar on all of the electric stuff. All of the scene songs, she played bass, except the last one. The last one we did stripped down. I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And then her husband, Tucker Shelton, played electric guitar on everything. And him and Jake are the two we were cruelest to. They didn't get to hear what they didn't get to hear what each other did. We did that on purpose, though, because we got their takes without being influenced by the other take.
Right.
And that was...
So Tucker had come in first.
No, Jake had.
Jake come in first?
Jake came in first. So Jake played them raw.
Yeah, Jake played them raw to your guitar.
Yeah.
Probably to a single guitar.
Yeah, probably to a single scratch track guitar. Because to start this project, everything we did scratch vocals and
a scratch
acoustic. And of course, none of them survived the project. They were just there, and then we built around them. We learned a lot of things from it, particularly me. And I'm going to tell you guys, I mean, for anybody doing this project, man, I can tell you, I got a little simple app on my phone, and it's a little metronome. Figure out do your homework. Figure out what your speed is and play to that metronome. Play to it. I'm lucky mine will Bluetooth through the little home speaker I use when I practice at home, my little home amp. And I'm still not great at it, but I'm getting better and better, but it gets comfortable. And once you get, because it would have benefited.
And the first thing out of everyone's mouth is, it's so rigid.
It's so rigid.
Well, it's rigid because it's in time, and you're not.
You're not. That's really the truth. It sucks. It sucks, but it's true, guys. P.S. Anybody that's on my side, we have feeling. That machine doesn't. No, just kidding. The truth is the dynamics is your feeling, and it's not your tempo. And in your attempt to manipulate dynamics, sometimes our tempos vary. We attempt to manipulate the mood of the song. I believe this is where it comes from. We think that we're flowing and
in a live setting where you've got several people playing together.
Yeah, I think if they're fluid,
everyone's fluid together.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Then you can go 5 to 15 to 25 and back and forth.
When you're layering several instruments like we did here, it all has to be in time.
Yeah.
Especially especially the initial take.
Yeah,
that you're building
off
around.
and-
your
yeah,
your scratch tracks that you're building around have to be in time so everyone else can play in time.
So full
Now,
disclosure, I didn't do a great job at it. I did okay. And Bill helped fix a lot. It was a learning curve.
And some of that was a learning curve on how a metronome worked.
Yeah.
And he was looking for a kick snare.
Yeah.
And was setting the metronome up to go,
which I can follow pretty good. Once
Right.
we did that,
which is the wrong time signature on all of it, though.
Yeah, but it's fine.
And
it helped.
It did.
Once we went from mechanical
and
clicks, that wood block click kills me. Click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click, click, click.
So again, on this, your scratch tracks have to be in time.
Yeah.
So then we started building around it. Well, once we got Mason to lay the drums, and I had laid some egg shaker and probably maracas, stuff like that on it. That keeps the time at that point.
Yeah.
We turned the metronome off. No one else played to a metronome.
Yeah.
I think you played the scratch tracks to the metronome.
Yeah, I played the
and I don't
scratches.
think that Mason even played to a metronome.
Well, it was very difficult because, again, I didn't do a perfect job. I wavered, but I kept back on track, and then we did the best. We did a little work on the scratch tracks with timing. Again, this is my first recording project. It was very intimidating,
and it was it's
very hard for everybody, but
huge project to take on.
And here's a good point. Let me emphasize this for encouragement. If anybody push, just keep doing it.
Absolutely,
repetition will make it better.
Absolutely.
You can't afford repetition in the studio.
Do
Repetition has to be at home.
Yes.
Practice with that metronome. We got close. I got good enough. Here's the thing. When I say the scratch tracks I made mistakes, let me trust you. It was good. It wasn't perfect because that was my goal. I wanted to do them perfectly in timing. And, it's kind of like that aim small, miss small kind of, I mean, if I try to be perfect and I get close, I'm probably okay, and we can probably fix a couple things if it's.
But we also didn't want a rigid feel.
Yeah, we wanted to.
We
it's all
wanted
right.
a little bit of flow to the whole thing. So
we're not AI.
Again, we turn that metronome off
We aren't AI.
after your scratch tracks, and no one else played to a metronome.
Yeah.
So actually, every instrument that you hear on this, none of them, anything that you hear was not recorded to a metronome.
The truth is not, I will say this as an artist, if I would have been better, I could have been better at the scratch tracks and on these projects so we're in a crazy thing right now. We got tons of music that we're working on, but this time doing scratch tracks, I felt really good and comfortable. I was comfortable with the click. We stayed real good on the click. I stayed real good on the click, and we're able to build a solid base from that. And so this was very much, again, a learning curve. But just because it was a learning curve doesn't mean that the end result wasn't what we wanted, because it got exactly where we wanted. And I think we got educated along the way. And this was a good start. I mean, this first song, did I say who else was on it? We had Mason playing percussion. You mentioned him earlier. He played a djembe, and he has a washboard that I call a contraption because he's got a bunch of little noisemakers on it.
Yeah.
And he plays it very well with these brushes and the butt end of the brush. And I mean, it's like a clockwork kind of thing he does with it. I really dig that. So we had that, and Bill did a lot of the percussion. Our engineer, he's also a member of the musicians that played on this album. He did a lot of percussion stuff, shakers, tambourines, like auxiliary percussions, and some snare. We did a lot of snare on this that was auxiliary over the traditional hand drums.
I also got to add more cowbell.
Dude, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We
Give away
are.
our secrets.
We are. So
just so you know, the last thing we put on this album was
when everything
cowbell.
kicks in, Jake comes in with that slide, and there's a rooster.
Our Charlie the rooster.
So that was something that you brought late into the project. We added.
I just kept hearing it. It was like I'm
that.
sitting on the porch, man. So I grew up. my friends had this rooster, and I remember staying over at their house. They were pioneers. There was one wood stove in the house, and it was in the living room. When you got up, you were under like 8 blankets, and you were breathing fog, man. And it didn't help that you're actually under the blankets, almost warm, and this damn rooster would be right out the window. And at 4:30, 5 o'clock, man, you know. And they lived. It was a farm. It was an old time farm. I love it. These people. They're just pioneers,
so we won't talk about how we recorded the rooster.
Yeah, I didn't choke that rooster. I'm just saying.
But yeah, so we added that late into the project, but I thought I didn't know about it at first, but
hey,
it fits perfectly.
That was really one of the funny ones. I was telling my buddy Rocky, I was like, dude, there's got to be a rooster on that first song. Like, as it starts right before it all kicks in, because it starts off with just the guitars, and it's real nice and mellow, and then this nice little walk down, and right in the middle of it, old Charlie, and then just at the end of it, boom, all of the drums, the bass, and everything settles in, but it almost like, not like dropping on you, but it's kind of like sunlight. It really does remind me of sunlight coming through the trees. Like it's daylight, you know, and it's coming up, and all of a sudden, boom, here come the rays. And that's the way this song hits you right after the rooster crows. And so I thought that was a real, I have these visions. I have these things I hear in my head, and I play these little movies in my head, and I just like, I could see the sun coming up and the rooster going off and it coming across.
And it very much gives you that feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of cool because you're painting that with music.
Right.
You know, and, you know, you're trying to paint an image or paint a film with words and music. And it's kind of, it's the intoxicating thing of doing stuff like this when you start getting on, because there's layers. It's as simple as some people playing music and deep as that.
Absolutely. So the song goes on, and we get to a point. I had you add some doubles.
Yes.
Where you were doubling yourself, and we went back and forth about that for a while.
Yeah, because I'm like, dude, it's bad enough you got to hear me once. And so Bill's like, no, I think we should hear you twice as much. And so,
and sometimes 3 times.
And sometimes
as
much,
3.
Well, what's funny? Well, let's go.
And I thought it worked out really well. I thought we ended up.
Well, what ends up really kind of cool is that. So we go from I don't think we should double it till I'm certain that I got to make a cowboy choir, and I'm like 3/4 of the cowboy choir. I got to sing parts. I was like a bass. I sang bass. I sang baritone, and I sang tenor. And then we added Bill's vocals, and we added our friend Shelly West, who's the artist and the flautist of our group. And she did background vocals and put her best Alanis Morissette on it, which was pretty neat. And shout out to Shelly. She's from Upper Peninsula, Michigan originally, but she lives down here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I met her at open mic. But yeah, it was kind of
that cowboy choir come out quite well. I thought,
dude, it's like, whoa. That's, I mean, I still kind of get kind of like laughy and whatever because it's just so fun. Again, for me, I mean, you got to sometimes sit in someone else's shoes and think about it. It's like you're sitting there. I'm like already apprehensive about Bill wanting to double and then all of a sudden I'm like, listen, that sounds like a whole choir, man. There's parts, and I'm singing parts. It's kind of neat. That was pretty fun.
It was fascinating for me to know the same way as you knew where we were going with the project and I didn't.
You knew where
once we started recording songs.
Yeah, Bill,
well, I know where I'm going with that. And
so Bill's a wizard. Here's why he's a wizard. I say, man, this is what I'd like, or this is what I'm thinking. And Bill goes, okay, here's what we do. Yeah. And he'll just start going, do this. And then sometimes you're going, I don't understand that. And it's like, well, we'll just do it anyway. And then he goes, click. And you're like, oh, wow, that's it. Wow. How did you know that was going to turn into that?
Well, I know that because I know your musical taste. And we talk a lot about music.
Yeah.
And you listen to a lot of stuff that that I don't. We have very similar tastes. But
Similars, and we got different.
Listen to a lot of stuff that I'm just not familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to a lot of that stuff throughout this project as we talked about it in conversation. I would pull that stuff up later, and one of the things that I try to concentrate on when I'm not in the studio and listening to music. So just so you know, if anybody is thinking about becoming an audio engineer, just know that it'll ruin your music listening experience for the rest of your life, because I never listen to anything now without completely breaking it down.
Dude.
I can't hear
the production.
I can't just hear it and go, well, that's a great song. I've got to break it down and go, well, what'd they do there? And oh, wow, that's, they're tripling that and there's a delay. Yeah. So
I think it's the same way with just the production. What instruments are we putting in here? What voices are we using?
Right. That's a lot of the arrangement and stuff.
And then you're like, how many of these voices and how much of that, which is a whole nother level.
But all that comes from the discussions we've had over this time period of what you listen to and what you like. And I kept going, well, we need to try this. And you're going, I don't know about that. And then in the end, there it is, because I straight stole it from something that you listened to. Yeah. Something we had discussed. So
I think it's like if you like pizza with pepperoni,
I think you're going to like pizza with pepperoni. I think a lot of what it is, though, is you didn't listen to music that way.
Yeah.
You didn't break it down like that. You didn't realize that's what was going on. When I said double it, you didn't hear all the doubles on all the music that you listened to.
Well, that is true. There's a lot of that. That's part of this learning curve that I really enjoyed about this is the production. I hear ideas like I'd like to have this instrument here and there, and then it's like, so I've during this project, it was about what voices and what they actually do. I mean, I really learned a lot through this project. I feel like a whole different level than when we started. And I mean, you taught me, and because I'm working with a guy. So I'm just saying, shout out to Mountain Hound Sound Studios. I'm working with a guy that's still going to school and preaches about doing his homework when I know I'm going to work before I come here to, I don't want to fall on my face and be unsuccessful. I'm doing something, I'm not going to do it to be unsuccessful. I'm going to try to do it successfully. What my vision of success is can vary. I don't have to sell a billion records to be. Look, my dad listened to this album twice through. The first time he heard it, listened to it twice through. There is no more success better than that. There is no pinnacle higher than that for me.
Right.
And it's me and my friends and him going, of 6 months ago, because I would be like, I got to go to the studio, Dad. You don't have anything, is going on and on about, because he doesn't understand. And then when you come back and he listens to it twice, and he didn't tell me, my sister had to tell me that, because Dad's not going to tell me that. He just told me he listened to it. He didn't tell me he listened to it twice, and which is kind of funny, because he's so proud. And he asks me every night where I play or when I'm going to play and all that stuff. I mean, it's like.
Which is a big deal because of the way you were raised and the way he was when you were growing up, which is very much not like that.
No, I mean, it was like, in our world, my dad worked construction for 43 years. He built over 430 buildings in that time, ran the heavy equipment, and they did 430 different building projects, and Dad worked on them.
He was a tough guy.
Yeah, you went to work, man. You went to work. My dad quit school in the 8th grade to work on the farm because there was 14 of them. And he worked the farm, and they were farmed, And had a lot of them values. I watched a man get up at 4 o'clock every day of my life and go to work. So the music was all, sports and music were kind of like, those are cool things, but they're not for you. We listened to music at the house. Dad loved all the old country stuff. Mom, I listened to a lot of that stuff. I used to say I hated most of it, but I found a lot of people I really love. Chris Christopherson, man, I love Chris. Just much as I love that Barry Manilow album back in the day. I ain't gonna lie, I did. But Waylon, Willie, all them cats, Merle.
But yeah, so over this project, the reason I brought it up, over this project, I've heard you say several times about how your dad would scoff at you when you were you were younger.
Yeah, it's just you get to understand. You know what I mean?
Well, it was a different generation.
Different generation.
And again, he's one of those tough guys that there's nothing else but get up and go to work and what do you do? Why are you wasting?
Why would you be off on Saturday if they're going to let you work?
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, seriously, like,
why are you
taking your vacation?
Why are you wasting your time on that?
Like, Dad,
there's work to
if I don't
be
take
done.
my vacation, they won't pay me. I just lose it. I don't know why you ain't going to work. Because they're going to give me money for not going, you know?
Right.
But his job always, see, Dad worked a job. He could accumulate his vacation. So he just didn't take it. And he would take the extra checks. If they didn't take the vacation, they pay you the checks at the end of the year. Right. So that was free money to him.
To hear these stories over the 6 months or whatever, and then to hear that he had listened to it twice, that was a really big deal.
Yeah, it was. It was huge to me. I mean, and the fact that I had said what I was going to do, I determined that I was going to do it,
and you followed through.
And we followed through, and we accomplished it. And here's the thing, man. You know, I talk about this very proudly, but I'm proud of everything that happened, and it's not. Look, I would not have been able to do this by myself. Don't matter how great my idea was. And I can tell you this, even if I was skilled, I probably could have done this project. If I even had more skills, I could play more music, I probably could have done it, but I would have never made this project. Because it's a matter of we made this project. And this group of people, and working with Bill, and what Bill and I had done on its level, and then the next level of
everybody else who come in,
they did their jobs, man. They did their parts. And then me and Bill took all that together and worked on it, and we pulled here and there, and this is a great start for it, guys. So we probably should think we should get on to the music, or is there anything else we should talk about?
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on real quick. So we got up to the choruses and was talking about the cowboy chorus. And when those choruses come in, when the first chorus comes in, is Sarah Gorick on the violin.
Yeah, let's not forget that. Sarah came and played violin, but what else did she bring?
Yeah, well, she played in that first chorus. She comes in with the violin, and then in the second chorus, that builds to a few more violins, and I think it's the third. Is there a third chorus in there?
No, it's just that she does.
So as it builds,
that cello.
Yeah, as it builds, she added two cellos. Yeah. And 4 violins.
Yeah, we built a whole string section.
We built a whole string section out of Sarah.
To go with the cowboy choir. It's like Mormon Tabernacle Choir, dude. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, man. It was huge.
It was something fantastic for me because I had never gotten to record a violin or a cello for that matter. Yeah. So I remember you calling saying she was coming the following day, and what we would be working on. And I was frantically searching through YouTube and reading articles on Google and trying to figure out.
See, doing homework.
Yeah, trying to figure out how to record these without screwing it up, because I knew we had her for that day and I didn't know if we were going to get her back.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I was able to do a good job.
I sent her the click tracks too ahead of time so she could work on, because like I said, she had to write an entire her parts, go over and figure out what exactly she wanted to do on the chapter verse as well as the song.
And she didn't just come to lay this song. So the way we did this, we laid out all the scratch tracks, and then as we were able to get people in here, they would go through and record their parts on whatever song they were going to play on.
Yeah, the only two people that played together was Kendall and Tucker.
Right.
Yeah, they were the only two that played at the same time as anyone else, or together. Everybody else did their tracks, and we added them and put them together as we went along. And because we have a very small studio, but we can probably fit up to about 4 people if it's depending on the instrumentation.
It's 12 by 16 in here.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing, and I'm so comfortable here. I love it. But we do. Here's the thing. Another part about doing it, this kind of project is limitations. People go, da 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 da. I don't have this. I don't have that. But here's the thing. Bill's utilized this space. He maximizes it efficiently, and we got the right mics. We got the right sound treatment going around. I mean, he's got the sound treated just right. We got baffles that are movable and replaceable, so we can configure this room in a lot of different ways. So what's important is the quality of what's coming out of that microphone and the way we're capturing it and the way we're eliminating outside sounds.
The true
possible.
The true important part, though, is the source itself, which would be the musician.
Yeah, well.
So there were fine musicians playing
musicians.
on this. They made it easy.
Yeah, they're as good a people as there are. They're as good or better musicians.
Yeah, I was just trying real hard not to screw it up. Yeah. They come in here and did a fantastic job, and I was just trying not to be in the way.
But see, that's the other thing. We were building this piecemeal, so don't be discouraged if you can't get it all together. Do what you can, because you can always go back, and if you're to the click, right, everybody's playing together, you can go back and add things, and you can edit. There's a whole nother world to just getting it on tape, which is good. It empowers you if you're willing to do several takes. And like I said, make sure that you're all on the same page. When I get a click track and I get enough things, I try to get more than just a click track. I try to get click track with some of the other instruments laid down before I send them out to some of the other people ahead of time so they can practice, listen, work, get a feel for what they're doing.
So we didn't so much on Outlaw Redemption because it was kind of a first, and you had so many musicians coming in.
Once
and
we had
I wasn't
the bass,
really prepared.
Once we had the bass, we were pretty well set.
You had mentioned previously, maybe on the last episode, on the introduction episode, about we're working on a lot more projects now. There's a lot more coming.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's made it a lot easier for us to send out those click tracks for people to hear and play along to, because I'm playing a lot of the
bass tracks,
a lot of the bass tracks, and we built a lot of the percussions. And we had Alex Holbert come in and play some drums, and she does a fantastic job.
Yeah, this learning curve was great.
So being able to, we're now getting down all the basic tracks and able to send that out to these lead musicians that actually get to hear what they're going to be playing to, where we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, we had 20 instruments on this thing, but we didn't use 20 instruments on every song. That's not the goal. The goal is to use what is necessary to do the production of that scene that you're doing.
And we embellished on this one.
We did a little. No, we could. We went fatter than we did. But if you take off maybe one or two extra lead instruments that we put together, but if you get down to it, I mean, we had a basic solid. The basic songs are bass, guitar, bass, electric guitar, and acoustic guitar and drums. And then we had and we had lap steel on most of them. I think we had on the electric
violin on quite a bit of
it. But like Sarah, she came in to do violin and cello. She was on. So when we brought her in, she was on like say number 1, 3, 5, and 7, and then chapters 1, 3, 5 or whatever. They weren't even sometimes not even the same chapter.
Right.
So she had a handful of things she was going to do. Shelley came in with flute. She had a handful of songs she was going to put flute on. My buddy Joe came on later. He came in and did it on a handful with saxophone and clarinet. Joe Hutchins.
Joe was a surprise.
Joe, that's another story. When we get to that,
we'll get there.
We'll get there because that was pretty neat. But it's also about the willingness to bring people on and to do a project, and people wanting to make something for the sake of making something.
Yeah. So I think we've discussed it through, and
I think we should get on with it.
Yeah, let's have a listen to. Here's chapter 1. And
Sunrise on the Farm.
Sunrise on the Farm, my bad.
Yeah. RPG and the Kentucky Tumbleweeds, Outlaw Redemption, a Western folk rock opera. Did you ever wonder if there's a way back when folks just get too far off the path. I've often questioned that myself. But let me tell you a story I know about an outlaw's journey to redemption. Our tale begins in the spring of 1861, a rich and fertile farm, the birthright of Obadiah Hardman, a beautiful piece of land given to him by his grandfather. A perfect place for him to spend life with his wife, Mary Elizabeth, and the boys, Levi and Hezekiah. When the dawn light's breaking through the trees, feels like God's smiling down on me. A farm so fertile fills my family's needs. But how blessed can one man be? My family built this farm from the sweat of their brow. It's mine to care for now. It's more than enough for both my boys to plow. Well, that's the thought that always makes me smile. And the river is full of fish, and the woods are full of deer. The grass so green, and the air so clear. Spend forever, spend it right here. That is nothing like sunrise on the farm. That is nothing like sunrise on the farm. And my race is run, but I thank God for all He's done. He made me feel like I'm the chosen one. When I meet the Lord, I hope it's with the risen sun. God's farm, where there's nothing like a sunrise on God's farm.